on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his way.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hope everybody is having a great week. Dylan, we are a day late, but never a dollar short.
Yes, it's true. We're a day late, but we're here, and we're going to try our hardest.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You're going to give it that A-plus effort?
Yeah.
You always give everything an A-plus effort.
I'm going to give it 110%.
That's what I want to hear, Dylan.
And I apologize. I'm a little stuffy and allergy.
Well, it's that time of year. I'm a little stuffy myself.
I think it gets everybody at this point.
If our listeners can tolerate this scratchy, nasally voice from both of us, then we can make it through the show.
But you have a great story, and I think we should get right into it.
Let's get into it. Dylan, are you ready?
I was born that way.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Cary, North Carolina has been dubbed Pleasantville. It is a town of young, affluent, well-educated families who reside in sprawling suburban houses. In the driveways, you'll find SUVs and flashy cars. Cary boasts top-rated schools, wonderful weather, and plenty of amenities. In the last 25 years, the town has tripled in population, mostly due to the technology boom of the 1990s.
Yes, they call that area the Research Triangle, right?
They sure do. It's Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill.
Yeah, there's a lot of university stuff going on, and the top world-rated hospitals and technology, and yeah, I would say it's one of the more technologically and business developed areas of North Carolina.
Definitely, Dylan. I mean, there's been a big migration to North Carolina over the last 20, 30 years. As a matter of fact, North Carolina ranks number 9 as far as like population migration, people moving here.
Yup.
It's rare if you go to the Raleigh-Cary area to find folks who are like local to that area, who were born and raised there. It's mostly people who've moved into the area, and it's because of all of the jobs.
Jobs are like that.
Well, it's a diverse community. They have people living and moving to the area who didn't grow up in North Carolina and come from all over the world, as I mentioned. Real estate in Cary is the most expensive in the Triangle area. The Raleigh-Cary area has been ranked number 1 as the best place for jobs in the U.S. by Glassdoor.com.
Wow.
The commute to the Research Triangle Park is usually about 10 to 15 minutes from Cary, and typically Cary is ranked as one of the safest places to live in the country.
Hey, you're making me want to move down there.
I've lived in Cary, and no, we're not moving there again. What's really interesting about this case, Dylan, one, I find it a very fascinating case for a number of reasons, which we will get into. But also, I lived in the neighborhood where this story takes place.
In the very same neighborhood?
In the very same neighborhood.
Wow.
I was an au pair, or a nanny, for a well-to-do family.
That's some rich people babysitter.
Yeah, I was a live-in nanny.
I bet you did. Were you full service?
I don't know what that means.
A full service nanny?
You mean like wipe the kids' snotty noses? Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And this is a very affluent neighborhood. These are very moneyed folks.
You've driven me. We've been to Cary in the Chapel Hill area where my mom lives, and you've taken me basically where you lived during that time. And it's a very, very nice neighborhood, huge houses. It's laid out in a certain way. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, it's obviously a moneyed area.
Definitely. So naturally, when a prominent socialite turns up dead, the community is shocked.
Wow. So you take someone who everyone knows about, everyone knows who she is, and then all of a sudden she's dead.
Et voila.
Well, that's going to make a bit of waves around there, right?
Nancy Lynn Rentz was born in 1973 in Alberta, Canada, to parents Gary and Donna. Cary was a well respected social worker who started a business running different educational and social programs for the government. Nancy grew up in Edmonton, a small city in Alberta. She had a twin sister named Krista. The pair were inseparable and considered themselves best friends. Isn't that cute?
It is cute. You're my best friend.
Oh, we're not even twins.
Well, we don't have to be twins to have the connection,
We're
but
like twin flames.
the connection that we have, yeah, our souls are twins because the connection is almost on an evolutionary level.
Yeah, baby.
Wow.
They really had a strong bond. They also had a younger sister named Jill and a brother, Jeff. By all accounts, the Rentz family was picture perfect. Nancy was athletic growing up, playing a sport called ringette.
I've never heard of that.
It's a girls' non contact sport similar to hockey. It's played on ice using skates and straight sticks.
Okay.
Nancy was an attractive girl who was popular and had a solid friend group in high school. Her brother described Nancy as someone who walked in a room and everyone flocked to her. Like, they just wanted to be around her, kind of bask in her glow.
Ooh.
By high school, she was into fashion, jewelry, even running her own clothing store part-time later on. She liked art and seemed to have an appreciation for beauty in all things. Nancy was also incredibly intelligent. She landed a job with IBM in Canada, which is, it's a pretty good job, bro.
So she's pretty, outgoing. Everyone kind of wants to, interact with her, and she's super smart.
Yes.
Wow. What's her name? Well, what's her number?
Okay, Dylan. It was at IBM that she met a man named Bradley Cooper, not the actor. Okay? Not the cute actor.
Definitely not the actor, right?
No, but they called him Brad, so we'll be calling him Brad this throughout this case. He was also from Alberta. The pair were both in their mid-20s when they met at IBM. Now, Brad was born in a town called Medicine Hat to parents Terry and Carol. His father was a chemistry teacher who later became vice president at a college in Medicine Hat. He was a member of several important boards, and the Coopers were well known. They were a respected family in town. His mother was a stay-at-home mom. Brad was highly intelligent. Throughout school, he was known as being academically gifted. He even had a blog later on called The Adventures of Brad.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah?
I guess.
Well, he wrote about his hopes, dreams, and things he did in daily life. I mean, I guess if you're like a computer type person, like a computer whiz, in the 90s and early 2000s, like having a blog was kind of the good, cool thing to do. We didn't really have social media.
Right.
It was kind of before like Friendster and MySpace.
Did you ever follow anyone or read their blog?
I had a blog.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Does it still exist?
I don't think so.
Aw.
Pretty sure I deleted it, but no, I had a blog.
Okay.
It was mostly me ranting.
I could not imagine that.
So before social media, blogs were a way for people to document their daily life or hobbies. You know, friends could read about the details, keep up with your life, that kind of thing. He participated in Ironman challenges, he finished triathlons, and he earned a master's degree in computer science from the University of Calgary.
Wow.
As a young man. Right, so I mean, he has a pretty impressive resume.
Well, yeah, with all that training for, Ironman and triathlons, and which is very, very hard to do, the different things involved in that. And then a master's degree, that early on. So, yeah, I mean, I could have never accomplished all that, I don't think.
How do you know? You never tried.
Well, thanks.
I believe in you, Dylan.
You think I can be an Ironman competitor?
I believe in you.
I can't do it
You
now.
can do anything you set your little heart to, right?
I get
To
cramps.
do. Oops, I hit my microphone.
Ooh.
I apologize.
I get cramps sitting on the couch now, so we're just going to let it
we're
go.
like the most unprofessional professional podcast.
Yeah, and, we're the little podcast that could, and we love all our listeners, so it's all good.
Yeah, I think they forgive us for being big goofballs. At the time when Nancy met Brad, she was actually dating a successful businessman from Calgary. Nancy had a history of dating guys who were outgoing, popular, but they were more like the playboy types, Dylan, who weren't really interested in settling down. you know this type of guy.
I've lived this life.
You were that guy?
Yeah.
Never.
Oh yeah. You pulled me right off the shelf.
Whatever. You're like a relationship guy.
I'm a relationship guy.
Yeah, you're not like a dating around type of guy. I feel like you're the kind of guy you want to be monogamous with someone, you get in a relationship and you settle into it, and that's kind of what you want.
Okay.
You're a one woman kind of man.
Ooh, baby.
It's true.
Yeah. I love you.
You know you're not like the playboy type. You wish you were.
I could be, but it's just not me.
You could be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, again, Dylan, I believe in you.
Yeah. So let's recap. I can be a triathlete and
An Iron Man?
an Ironman and a Playboy. All I got to do is try, give it 110%.
Yes, exactly. Brad was different. He was quiet, more serious. Nancy was at a point in her life where she wanted to have children and find a life partner. She was kind of over dating and all that entails. He eventually bought Nancy a ring and proposed. So the pair planned an elaborate wedding. However, Brad was offered a job with Cisco, a phone company in North Carolina.
Uh-oh.
At the time, Brad was kind of a specialist in his field. He was one of very few people who were doing this type of internet work phone technology.
Yeah, so this will be early on in the internet as it's growing and the systems need to be connected and things like that, right?
Yeah, the VoIP
So if you're
systems.
in a specialized area of this, this of the internet or the development of the internet, that means you're going to be in high demand.
It was an amazing offer, one that, it was an offer he couldn't refuse kind of thing, Dylan. So he felt like he needed to take this job. Brad designed a network for her family's business. I mean, that's kind of how talented he was. And they knew he was very smart. He was like really good at what he did. So obviously her family was like, yeah, this is a good opportunity for you. You should take this job. Before the move, the couple spent a lot of time with their families. The Rents family really liked Brad. Jill spent almost every weekend at the couple's apartment, and she saw how happy her sister Nancy was with Brad. They seemed really in love. Still kind of in that, honeymoon stage, if you will. Needing to get married before the move to North Carolina for visa purposes, the couple ditched their big wedding plans and settled on a smaller affair so their families could take part. On October 13th of 2000, they were married at a restaurant. And by January 1st of 2001, the couple moved to Cary.
So he's going all in. He's got this great job. We got to move to the States. And, and it sounds like they're having to change their plans around a little bit, but it seems like they're excited and they have like a bright future as a couple.
This is a lot of change. Even if it's positive change, we all know that change can be difficult for folks.
Yeah, like you said, even if it's good.
Yeah, and this is a lot of change. I mean, think about it. She's getting married, they're starting this relationship, and then they're moving, not just to like a new city, but like a brand new country. I mean, it's a lot to have going on.
Yeah.
The Coopers purchased a home in Lockmere, which is a really nice subdivision in Cary. Like at the time, it was a brand new subdivision. And you mentioned it, Dylan. It's these big, very sizable homes.
Oh, yeah. 3,000-4,000.
Well manicured lawns.
Yeah, like stone walls or brick walls around, the yard and things like that. And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in Lockmere and, it's pricey.
It's like McMansions.
Definitely what they would call McMansions, Dylan. However, things in North Carolina didn't work out exactly as the couple had planned. Nancy wasn't able to work in the States yet, so she was financially dependent on Brad. And this was difficult for a woman like Nancy. She was accustomed to having her own money, the ability to purchase whatever she wanted, and a single income made it harder to do that. Being stuck at home, Nancy was also really bored because she hadn't made any friends yet. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to do to fill her days.
Well, yeah, he's got all his time occupied with this new job, and I'm sure he spent a lot of time there trying to make a good impression, lots of work to do. And she's no friends. She has no friends. And like you said, She's moved so far. Not only did they move to the States, they moved on down into the States. It's not like they were right across the border in Michigan or something like that. So yeah, there's just no opportunity for her to kind of develop a life outside of her life with Brad, if that makes sense.
This made her unhappy a lot of the time. She also didn't have a car yet, so she is stuck at home, no job, her new husband working, she has no friends, and nothing really to do as far as, what's going to occupy my time.
That sounds not good.
Now, I'm going to get into this because we may get some blowback from what I say in this case. But I've listened to a lot of podcasts. There's a Dateline episode that cover this case. And in my opinion, they don't paint a complete picture of what was going on in this marriage. I'm not a victim blamer, and I'm not speaking negatively about Nancy, but I want everyone to have a full view of the entire story, which involves money squabbles, salacious extramarital affairs, and mind games.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it before, Dylan. You may be the victim of a crime, but that doesn't automatically give you a free pass for some of your actions.
No,
right?
it doesn't give me it doesn't give you a free pass. And there's that joke about you go to an asshole's funeral and he's the greatest guy in the world, right? Because people tend to do that after someone passes. But I think it's important to get a complete picture, especially if it possibly is connected to the end result of the situation. And it's okay to say, hey, yes, that person, whatever happened to them was horrible, and I wish it hadn't happened. But at the same time, they were not a good person, or they did these, things that were very bad. Or, it's okay to talk about bad or, talk about them in a bit of a negative light just because they were a victim. I mean, you can still mention those things.
Well, there's a lot going on in this story, and I just want folks to have a full view of everything, right?
And I know you, and I'm sure I know that it's important. You feel it's important to to bring these things up. So I think people understand the way you operate, and they're not going to maybe give you too much gruff about it.
It was later in 2001, after moving to Cary, that Nancy went on a trip to Florida where she met another man. The pair began an affair. Nancy went back to Canada for her sister's wedding and brought this other man as her date.
No way. See, now okay, those two sentences, that's huge.
Jill Dean, Nancy's sister, expressed her distaste at this decision, and she told her sister, quote, "You decided to marry him," meaning Brad. "This is your husband, and you should try to make it work." The rest of her family wasn't pleased with this at all. Nancy told them that she wanted to get a U.S. citizenship, move to Florida, and be with this new man.
So she's just all met this guy, and that's all she can think about. And what a bold move to take this guy back with you to your sister's wedding in Canada.
And she was unhappy. Not only did she talk about getting the U.S. citizenship, but that maybe she just wanted to return home altogether. Like she just wasn't feeling North Carolina and was not happy with the situation at all. Well, of course, Brad learned of this affair, and he still wanted to be married to Nancy. So eventually she did go back to North Carolina after he promised to purchase a vehicle for her and they could start having children.
And I must say, from Nancy's perspective, she was in a pretty tough spot. No friends. No car, not even a car. Now that was a big one right there. But she can't even get out. She can't even learn about the area she's in. Well, she has all this time on her hands. Brad's at work. She's in this big nice house, and she can't even hardly get out and make new friends. So she's stuck, and that was a really bad, lonely situation she was in. So
It was, but I guess looking back or just being an outsider in that situation, I feel like, okay, but there were other things that could have taken place maybe. I mean, she had her own job and her own life in Canada, right? So she probably sold off a lot of her possessions to move. Did she not have money to buy a car?
Yeah, I mean, you get
I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Well,
Who
you get
knows?
$1,000 up, you can get a little, especially back then, you could have got a decent little car to drive around the neighborhood.
Well, you're living in a house that's probably $500,000 or more. You couldn't live in a smaller house and get a car. I mean,
Yeah,
these are just my practical mind immediately is like, okay.
The one car, when you said that, struck me as odd because that, and it's very. A lot of families wish or really need a second car, and it's a very convenient and thing to have two cars in a household. But I was very surprised. There's only the one car. You didn't like even get an older car. Just maybe he drives the older car to work. She keeps the nice car, whatever. So that I found that very odd that there was only the one car, especially in this new area. She has no friends. She really needed a car.
Well, it just seems to me that maybe there wasn't a lot of thought put into this decision to get married or this plan to move. I mean, I know maybe it was kind of a quick, hey, I've got this job, I got to go now kind of thing, but I don't know. I'm the kind of person that I want to plan and I want to know what's happening next, and I need to have some security and know that like A and B and C are going to happen and that's going to equal D instead of just sort of like jumping in a situation without thinking about it, proper planning, you know what I'm saying?
This would have been way too much for you.
No.
Too much
I couldn't
change.
handle it. That's probably why my mind immediately is like, well, why didn't she just stay in Canada for a while and save some money and then move with him? Or, he could have gotten an apartment and saved some money up and then they could have bought a house and a car. I mean, I guess my mind goes to think about those
they could
kinds of
have
things.
done that.
Because I guess I'm more like pragmatic in that way.
Yeah, and I'm a fly by the not by the seat of my pants type of guy, so that's why we work.
It is why we work so well. Okay, so on with our story. Eventually, Nancy made friends in Cary, and socializing became a top priority for this very outgoing woman. The couple spent evenings and weekends hanging out with their new social circle. Nancy seemed happier. The Coopers decided it was time to start having children, which was something that they both wanted. And by the way, when Nancy returned back to North Carolina, she started working as a nanny, which I'm not going to say it's super easy to find a nanny job in this area, but there are positions like that available. And with being a nanny, a lot of times it's a cash transaction kind of job.
So in this area, you got a lot of professional couples. They both work.
And they need babysitters.
And they have disposable income.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's fair concentration of these types of jobs in this area. And to the point where, like you said, you were a full-on live-in nanny.
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, 7 a.m. to like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, I was full-time with the kids.
And then the other 12 hours, you just go do what you want?
Yeah.
You just left?
I would just go hide.
You just went into the
'cause
bar?
I was, like, mentally fucking exhausted.
You went to the damn bar
I did.
and
I was
danced
young.
your little life away?
Yeah.
And then got all sweaty?
Yeah. Just
Baby.
losing myself to dance.
Damn. And all exhausted by other people's kids?
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. After about 18 months of that, I was like, you know what? I better like not do this job much longer, or I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to want to have kids of my own.
Okay.
In February of 2004, the couple welcomed a baby girl named Bella.
Oh,
I have a baby girl named Bella.
I have a stepdaughter named Bella.
Nancy and Brad were described as hands-on parents who shared responsibilities with the new baby. Those who knew Nancy said she was an excellent mother, totally devoted to her daughter. And though Brad worked, he devoted his free time to also caring for this new baby.
So, after the affair and her obvious acting out almost of I'm this lonely that I'm over it. So she's come back and now everything's changed again. She has a new circle of friends. She's kind of on the inside now. She's, socializing and stuff. She's working as well. And now here is a new child. So again, this is a lot of new change into a relationship.
In 2006, they welcomed a second child, Katie, to the family. It was around this time that Brad began pursuing an MBA. So he's getting another graduate degree.
So again, like a business degree on top of his master's of computer science.
Yeah, so he's getting an MBA at NC State University. With finances increasingly tighter as Brad is paying out of pocket for graduate school, the couple's problems pop up once more. Also, the social circle in which they found themselves invested in was often strained. They were like these on and off again friendships. A lot of conflict, gossip, affairs, and betrayals.
Wow. I need a group of friends like that.
No, you don't.
No, here's the thing. That sounded bad. I don't want to participate in any of that, but I'm just going to read the Facebook drama.
Exactly.
You need a few of those people in your Facebook friends thread, right?
Yeah, no, it's like we know this. I love trash. Like I'm
I do
trashy. I
too.
love trash. I love drama as long as I'm like not in the middle of it.
Yep.
But if I can just like watch it unfold,
Oh my
like Jerry
God.
Springer live, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And be like, and then they comment back, be like,
They
that's
broke
why.
they broke up again.
That's
Yes.
why you was fucking my uncle, you stupid bitch. And be like, well, your uncle. That's why you kissed my mom. I hate you. And be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm reading this.
Yeah.
But you can't stop.
The information people will put out there.
That's it.
No shame.
That's it right there. That's the key element.
And I'm here for it.
we have some popcorn and a soda.
It's true. We have a few acquaintances, and I will be like, Dylan, come here. You have to see this. And like we kind of go back and forth with like
Yeah,
watching things unfold. We love it.
that's
Like I
true.
said, we're just trash. So Nancy's best friend was a woman named Heather Metor. In the summer of 2006, the two meet another woman named Jessica Adams. And I'm getting into some of this friendship drama just because I want to kind of like give you a picture of what's going on in Nancy's life and what's going on in this neighborhood.
Okay,
It's like Desperate Housewives.
really?
I never even watched that show, but it's totally like that, right? They meet this woman named Jessica Adams, and there seemed to always be tension between Heather and Jessica, like perhaps they were both vying for Nancy's #1 friend spot.
Ooh,
It's like high school girls. It was sometime in the spring of 2006 that Nancy and Jessica had some sort of falling out. The details about what occurred between the women was unclear, but Jessica returned everything that Nancy had ever given her.
oh my God.
And eventually the friends would make up and start hanging out again. But it was that kind of thing that became a common theme in Nancy's social life.
So yeah, that's just too much. Like if I have a problem with someone, I'm like, well, whatever. They piss me off. Screw them. They let me down. Whatever. I'm just not going to fuck with them anymore.
Right.
That's just it. But I'm not going to make this big show of gathering every small item you ever gave me, or I might return some borrowed clothes or something. Women are like to borrow each other's clothes, and was that sexist?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't see you borrowing your friend's clothing.
That's true. So it's not. It's true. It's what happens. Yeah, I mean, I might return something or borrowed items so that I don't have to hear about their mouth about that. But yeah, this is childish, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Very childish.
It is. And I have this theory, Dylan, that, it's like that whole idle hands or the devil's plaything.
It's true.
I feel like people who don't really have a lot going on in their life, like maybe they don't have a career, they stay at home, maybe they might have a career, but they don't have a lot of hobbies. I mean, I just feel like people who have a lot of time on their hands invest in this type of drama.
Oh, no, it's definitely
Busy
true.
people don't invest in drama because they're too fucking busy.
It's true. That's true for men and women.
Both, yeah,
Yup.
absolutely. Now, people who knew Nancy said she kind of embraced the drama. Nancy was known to embellish stories and often exaggerate, and this is going to be like an important detail later on in our story. Her friends called them Nancyisms, and they felt she often added to stories for attention. Nancy liked being the center of attention, and she also needed to feel important. It is possible this was part of Nancy's personality, or maybe she kind of considered her life a little boring since she was a stay-at-home mom. Like maybe she really kind of missed having that outside interaction, having a career, like being involved in something other than like, hey, I'm running a household, which is fucking hard work.
It's hard work 24/7. It's what did we say? Tell Bella the other day. She said something about doing chores. And I was like, do you really think that adults think chores are cool? Or like totally like, I can't wait to mop the floors and do the dishes and shit. I was like, we hate them too, just as much as you guys do. But it has to be done. And somebody's got to do it.
And you're putting in that sweat equity. I mean, it's tough. And you have a new baby, you have 2 little kids at home, and you're trying to maintain the household, keep the groceries stocked up, make sure there's soap, toilet paper. I mean, all of that stuff. I mean, it's like very detail oriented. It's multitasking.
It's true.
It can be a lot of work. But I think, a lot of women and men who stay at home, they might enjoy being at home with their kids, but after a while, maybe they kind of crave something more, something outside, especially if you've been a career-minded person.
Right.
I'm no psychologist. This is just like, you know,
Well, no,
this is
I
what I
think
get.
I think you're dead on with it because it makes sense.
One example of this kind of behavior was in fall of 2007. Nancy said she had pneumonia. She told friends she had a growth on her lung and later added it required a biopsy.
Oh, go see now that this situation's been ratcheted up, right? You're not just sick or have bronchitis or pneumonia, which are bad, especially pneumonia. It could be cancer. I mean, right? That's what I get out of that. If my friend told me that,
Very scary. When worried friends, inquired about the results of the biopsy, Nancy was evasive. Also, there were no medical records indicating that Nancy had pneumonia or had received any kind of treatment related to a lung problem.
yeah, I must say, man, and some people do it, but to say that you're sick or rather ill because that's such a bad thing to affect so many people when you're not is a very disgusting. And I'm not saying that that's not what Nancy did here, but I've known people in the past that have done it about being like really sick, like I have cancer, or it could be this, I might be dying, and then it turns out it wasn't true at all, and everyone around them was worried. And I think that's a very disgusting thing to do.
No, I mean, I know someone who faked cancer and like people gave this person money and
Oh God,
I mean, it was just
that's
like,
horrible.
yeah, no, it was like kind of scandalous in my small town where I grew up as a girl, right? Nancy felt she needed to maintain certain standard of living, like she was accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and especially in a town like Cary where all the women were beautifully coiffed, they were dressed in the latest fashion, iced out with jewelry, they
Ooh.
all drive these luxury cars, a Mercedes, a Lexus. So by 2007, the Coopers were definitely living beyond their means. Nancy enjoyed designer clothing, bought expensive bottles of wine, and spent freely. Her lavish tastes really strained the single income budget. Brad was the only person bringing in money, and though he had a nice salary, it just wasn't enough.
It doesn't matter what your salary is. There's only so much of it. You know what I mean? It's limited. And if that's what people tend to do. You see someone in a big, nice house, two nice cars, and all that, and you're like, wow, those people have money. And typically, a lot of the times, they're just like you. They're just on a bit different level, but they have debt up to their eyeballs. You know, 60, 70+% of their money going right out the door in bills every month. And just like you. But, they just live in a bigger house.
The Coopers had amassed a huge credit card debt. Brad had borrowed against his 401k, and they had maxed out their home equity line of credit.
See, these are all very poor financial situations to be in.
Nancy had charged $27,000 on their American Express card.
I could not imagine having that much credit card debt
No.
in my life because I can have $1,000 in credit card debt and be like, oh my God, I'll never get that paid off. I mean, at the interest rate, depending on the interest rates, you literally could get in situations when you get up $20, $30, $50,000 in credit card debt that you literally can never pay that off.
You would have to file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens to some folks.
Well, that's
Dylan.
why I don't need a credit card that has a huge limit because
No.
I would jack it off.
You would jack off the credit card? That sounds kinky.
You know what I mean by that.
You mean you would just spend freely?
You'd waste it. That's what that means around here.
Is that what it means?
Don't jack off your money because it's the last money you're going to get till later.
Yeah, well, I think most people live by that standard, Dylan.
Yeah.
Financial strain is number one relationship killer.
Boom.
Not only is there disillusionment and stress causing these tensions to erupt, but arguments often spark over little things. Couples can experience anger, resentment, self-pity, and it's just a big adversity. For some, the crisis can make them closer. For others, the financial struggles outweigh what it means to be married, quote, for better, for worse.
Now, man, the money's been tight at times in our relationship, and
I think that's normal for most people.
well, it's true. And but I think we perform. We've talked about this before. We perform pretty good in those situations. And the number one reason is we don't turn on each other.
We don't, and I think we both know what it's like to be poor.
Right.
So,
There's that.
you know, when you come from like being poor, being at rock bottom and being poor is just like, okay.
Yeah, you're just like, hey, you see all your old friends because you've been on rock bottom most of your life.
Yeah.
But no, and just this type of tension and worry is huge. It's maybe one of the biggest ones you can have in a relationship. Worried that you won't make your mortgage payment on time, or that you can't
Car
provide.
will be repossessed.
Yeah, or provide for your children, or you can't do any, and then you end up in this kind of catch-22 situation where you can't do anything extra. You can't take an extra, a trip to decompress and relax because there's just no extra money. So it's just really a horrible situation. I'll never be in this type of debt situation again in my life because I've been there before with the house and the cars and the, whatever, just debt up to my eyeballs. I'll never do it again. That's why I drive a little shitbox car to work that some people might see and make fun of me in. A 2003 Honda or whatever.
It's a 2004.
2004, a little bit beat up. There is no front bumper.
That's your fault.
Well, it's my fault, but and I think it looks cool. But anyway, I don't know.
I know.
People get carried.
People think that I bet people look at us and think that we're like super poor, but it's just that we spend our money in other ways. Like we're like, oh, a car, eh.
Yeah, car. You only want $500 for that skull? Nice.
Cool. Yeah, we just have different priorities.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. A nice car has never really been something I've prioritized. As long as something gets me from point A to point B and is reliable, and decent gas, kind of not a gas guzzler, I don't really give a fuck what it looks like.
What a way I
don't
look
need
at
a brand
it.
new car. They depreciate. You're paying all this money, and for what?
Cars are the only thing Americans buy that depreciate at that rate, and we put this amount of money into, and it's totally ridiculous. But honestly, unless I've commuted like hour and a half, 2 hours every day, or spent just a shitload of time in this car, I mean, maybe then I'd want something a little extra luxurious and comfortable. But let's be honest, that my car gets me there just like your, $80,000 car or whatever.
Yeah, and you're not paying like a $600.
And I'm not paying anything, bro.
Payment for it.
I'm not paying shit.
Well, this is kind of when Nancy begins telling her friends stories about Brad. Regardless of whether these stories were fabricated, exaggerated, or maybe just like how she was actually feeling, it fed into a narrative that Brad was the enemy. One issue in the marriage was Nancy's lack of a car. She would tell friends it was because Brad wouldn't buy her a car and expected her to be trapped in the house all day with the children and no transportation.
What? Wait, whoa. I thought he'd promised to get another damn car long ago.
We're getting into that.
Damn, Brad, come on, man.
It was a way for her husband to control her. That's what Nancy told people. Brad would refute these rumors, later saying that he and Nancy had met with a BMW salesman numerous times. Nancy wanted a white or silver BMW X5, which is a luxury SUV, which now retails for about $59,000. I'm not quite sure what the value of it would have been, like 2006, 2007.
High.
Right.
But
But you get the idea. The base model's about $60,000.
And she wanted one exactly a certain color.
White or silver.
Right.
Like she had certain specifications. This is the car she wanted. They had to wait for the salesman to track down the exact car that Nancy wanted. She didn't want to settle for less. But in the end, Brad looks like the bad guy until Nancy gets this car of her dreams. Like, from his point of view, he's like, she's making me out to be the bad guy, but the truth is,
she's being difficult about the car.
She wants what she wants.
Right.
I'm trying to give her what she wants.
Right. Well, okay. And that's the way it looks, though. You'd be like, damn, well, why don't they have two cars? I'm sure the neighbors around, especially in that area, is like, oh, my God, they only have one car. I can't believe it.
So, again, I'm just trying to give you, like, these different points of view.
No, and it means a lot, though. It's important.
By 2008, the relationship was definitely on the rocks. Earlier that year, Brad had spoken to a financial advisor who told him that you must cut spending or bankruptcy is looming for your household.
So they're in complete financial disarray.
Yes. The advisor helped Brad devise a budget. When he told Nancy, after all the bills were paid, she would be getting an allowance of $300 a week, she was not happy. The couple had fallen behind on bills due to this exorbitant debt. Like at one point, their water had been turned off due to non payment. Nancy told her friends that Brad had it cut off at the street level and forced her to be at home with the kids and no water.
Come on.
The bill had been late 5 times before, and according to Brad, Nancy carried in the mail often, forgetting to tell him when the bills were due. So Brad paid the bill online the day the water was turned off, but Nancy had already confided in her friends about the situation. Nancy complained about the $300 a week, often saying that it was only $300 a month and that she had to get the kids food, diapers, and other important household items with that. But Brad would later dispute this and say that the $1,200 a month had been Nancy's spending money, not money budgeted for household expenses like food and diapers. Okay, I have to say this. Newsflash, okay? A lot of people only have about $300 period to spend, and that includes food and diapers. It's called real life.
Yeah, that includes their rent and gas and getting to work and all that shit.
Right. So regardless of whether this is spending money that you can go blow on a bottle of wine or some new shoes or whatever, or it is money for you to budget, this is what you're going to go buy diapers with, and if you need laundry detergent, that's what you're going to spend.
You're still doing pretty good. And back then,
it's what most, I would say, half of Americans or more are living on this kind of budget.
Today.
Yeah.
And this is back then.
Exactly.
So $300, let's say it was $300 over the top, just I call it walking around money. That's a chunk. $300 just to spend or not spend. You could save it and then say, hey, Brad, look, I've been saving this money. I've been thinking about what you've been saying. We do need to get our finances straightened out, and I want to help. I mean, you could do that too, but I'm just saying.
With 2 kids to care for, the stay-at-home mom began socializing a lot more. She told Brad when he was home in the evenings and on weekends, he was on, quote, dad duty. Nancy wanted to spend more time out of the house with friends. She spent nearly every night out with friends. The girls' nights often included drinking in excess, and then she would phone Brad to pick her up. Now, I don't see a problem with this. Moms deserve a break, too.
I was going to say, some guys think they could. I'm sorry, it's mostly men that think this way. I work, I got the single, I'm bringing the income in. I get to come home, get my beer, get my easy chair, and not do anything else. No chores, not help with the kids, and then I go back to work. And if a woman's down for that, and they're both happy in that relationship, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's totally fair for when you walk, and yes, sure, you was at work. But I don't play that card on a woman that's home with the kids, because you got a break from this household and these kids when you were at work. Because there's been times I was just like, oh, I got to go to work. Sorry. And you're like, shit, I'm glad I'm out of there for now. You know what I mean?
Trust me, when COVID was happening,
Yeah.
I was like, you don't understand. You get to leave.
She's like, take me to work with. Can I just get in your pocket?
I'll get a job and you stay
No,
home.
but so it is fair. It's okay for when Dad walks through the door. I mean, maybe give him an hour to decompress or something. To say, you got kids for me, man. I need some time to myself.
Absolutely.
But
There's
and that's
nothing wrong
okay.
with that.
That's
it's
okay.
called co-parenting.
Yes.
It's what you should do.
It is.
But, Dylan, through my research, it does seem it was perhaps excessive.
Every night.
I know that's a word I used before, but yeah, I mean,
Getting
that's
drunk
just the
with your
best way to
friends.
describe it, excessive.
It might be too much.
And it's not a recipe for making the marriage work. I mean, if you're having marital problems, it seems spending more time together, attempting to resolve those issues, might be more important. At least from my point of view.
Well, it seems like even,
Right?
yeah, you're definitely right. Whether Brad's right or wrong in some of these decisions he's making, it seems like they're not on board together to make this thing work.
It seems like they're both making very poor decisions.
And it seems like they're almost like they're adversary. They have this adversarial element to their relationship that is not healthy at all. Right? Yeah. I mean, if he makes this decision and he says it's because of this, but she always twists it, like it's to get at me, it's a dig at me, it's to control me, which, there could be some of that to there. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem very healthy right now.
But I also understand that, when you're totally miserable with someone, wanting to be away as much as possible, I get that. But regardless, this marriage is in serious trouble.
I think that's obvious.
I mean, it just seems like, okay, we're at a point where we need to figure this out. Like, either you are going to invest in the marriage and try to make it work, you've got kids, or you're like, fuck it, I don't want to be around this person. I can't stand to look at your face. The minute you get home, I'm out of here. Okay, it's like a standstill, right? Like you have to make a decision. This lifestyle doesn't sustain
No,
for anyone.
for anyone, it's not. And I've done this before too. Stay together for the kids' sake. When the energy's bad and you are having a relationship where like this that's maybe becoming toxic or not good, the best thing you could do for the kids is separate in an adult manner, and because keeping a bad relationship together in a household for the kids' sake is not. It's like the opposite. I mean, in retrospect, you see that was the worst thing I could have done, because your kids are like, won't you guys just fucking separate? Because this is bad. You arguing constantly. The energy's bad. You can tell you don't like each other. I mean, just, grow up.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I totally would just be like, I wish my parents would divorce. And I was like a child, like a little kid.
Most kids be like, oh my God, I hope my parents don't divorce. But you're like, it'd be great if my parents got
Exactly.
divorced.
I would beg, like, please, can we just have a divorce here, you guys?
Right. And that's bad for.
Can you both just shut the fuck up and let me have some peace?
There you go.
A lot of things transpire in spring of 2008. Again, I wanted to bring up this mention of an incident that happened with Nancy's friends, just to kind of give you more idea of like how they operate and what was going on. There was an incident with some of Nancy's friends. During a girls' night, one of the women spotted a text message pop up on Nancy's phone from a man named Brett.
Ooh.
Now, the friend approached Jessica Adams, who happened to be, Nancy's kind of on and off again friend, right? And asked, Jessica, why is your husband texting Nancy? Jessica became upset and confronted Nancy, but it turns out it wasn't her husband, but another Brett, a man that Nancy had dated years ago in Canada.
See, I was going to
But
say.
this kind of distrust among friends,
Well,
it's just not a good situation.
that seems intentional on the one friend who brought it up in the first place. Because my first thought was, how do you know it's her husband? Or did you read the message? Do you even know the content of it? Do you even know it's salacious? Or do you know any of this? Or are you just starting up some bullshit?
Well, because Jessica Adams does play a big role in our story later on, I just kind of want people to understand like what kind of friend she was and
okay.
what her relationship was with Nancy, because she paints it very different once we get into our case. So it was in spring of 2008 that Brad finally admitted he'd actually had an affair with Nancy's best friend, Heather.
Damn it. You can't trust Heathers.
Heather had told Nancy about the affair, but Brad wouldn't fess up to his part. The sexual encounter took place back in 2005. Heather was involved in an alienation of affection lawsuit. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it is a civil lawsuit that can be filed in North Carolina in the wake of a divorce or breakup. So North Carolina is a no-fault state when it comes to divorce. Like a lot of states, you can mention adultery as the reason you're divorcing, right? The plaintiff can file and say, well, it was an adultery. You can't do that in North Carolina. It's like a no blame kind of thing. Like you just file the divorce and you don't state a reason for the divorce. You just file it. But this lawsuit can be filed and you have to go to court, testify, give up all the dirty details of the sexual liaison or whatever. And there can be monetary awards given to the plaintiff in this case.
So basically, if you're the other person, the mistress or the mistress dude,
it can
what do you call
cost
it?
you.
You could be sued in civil court and be penalized monetarily for having inserted yourself into these people's relationship.
Yes.
If your participation is found to be, a big part of the cause of them breaking up.
Right.
Right.
So Heather's being sued because of an alleged affair that she had that broke up a marriage or led to the dissolution of a relationship.
Of some other relationship.
Right.
What?
So because of that, Brad was concerned he could be called to testify at the civil hearing. That's how he finally fesses up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Her relationship. She's involved in the alienation
The
of
best friend,
affection.
Heather, is.
Right.
Yes. And so she and Brad had an affair 3 years before.
Okay.
She tells Nancy this is what happened. They obviously are not probably going to remain friends after this.
Right.
They have a big
But she felt like she had to tell.
fight over it.
She had
Nancy's
to tell
very
her.
upset.
Right.
And then Brad didn't want to come clean about it, but he finally did because he thought, oh shit, I might be called to testify at the civil hearing.
Oh, God.
Right.
Okay.
Nancy was clearly very upset, and Heather had been her best friend. So obviously, your best friend sleeps with your husband sleeps with your best friend. Like, we've heard stories like that before, but that's a lot of fucking betrayal.
I'd never sleep with your best friend.
Well, we've talked about this before.
You don't have any friends.
My best friend's like a teeny tiny little thing.
I'm just kidding.
It would be like you would have a little Polly Pocket. You would just like stick her in your little pocket.
No.
It would look so weird.
I forgot we did talk about that.
She's so tiny.
We love you, Julie.
She would just get like lost in the crook of your arm, as we mentioned.
Like, are you on Julie again? Move.
Oh, God, you could hurt her.
Let's just move on.
You could squash her. She's so tiny.
She just waddle.
You sat on her, it would kill her. She's like a little kitty, and you're like this big thing.
Oh, my God.
Like a big elephant sitting on a teeny tiny kitty on the couch and squishing it or something. Okay, so she learns her husband and best friend slept together. She is like not okay with this. This was actually a driving factor for Nancy to end the already problematic marriage. In April of 2008, Nancy visits an attorney's office asking for a separation agreement to be filed. Nancy told Brad she wanted to move back home to Canada and take the girls. Brad explained that he couldn't find a job in Canada with Cisco. He wouldn't be able to find a job that was on par or equal to what he was doing in Cary. Wouldn't be making the same amount of money.
So she's basically saying, I want us to move back to Canada, or she's saying, I want to leave with the girls and go myself?
She says, I want to move back to Canada with the girls. Like, I'm filing for separation. I want custody of the girls.
Okay.
And he's like, I can't do that. Like, I can't move back. And he felt like if Nancy took the girls to Canada, he would never see them.
Well, it'd be difficult to see them regularly.
Despite the separation agreement, the Coopers continued living in the same house. Nancy's lawyer advised that if she left the house, like if she just up and moved out, that she could lose everything. It could be considered abandonment, that sort of situation, right? Nancy felt stuck. From the outside, they were kind of carrying on like everything was fine. There were reports that Heather and Nancy had heated public exchanges about the affair. Nancy's parents knew the situation wasn't good. Brad had taken one of Nancy's passports and was listening in on her phone calls and checking her email. But they also recognized that their daughter wasn't innocent either. She had acted poorly in the situation. Her dad asked if she felt her life was in danger, and Nancy told him no, not at all. Her parents would later learn that Brad hadn't applied for Nancy's work visa, which they viewed as he was trying to control her. But playing the devil's advocate here, a logical explanation might have been that she chose to be a stay-at-home mother. They have two small children, so maybe the work visa thing didn't happen because she was staying at home with the kids.
So, well, there seems to possibly be a pattern of Brad does this or this happens in their relationship, but then Nancy possibly misconstrues it or doesn't tell the entire situation to outside friends or family.
I'm also wondering, why does Brad have to apply for Nancy's work visa? Can't she do it herself? I mean, if it's your work visa, can't you apply for it? I don't know how that works.
That doesn't make sense to me. It seems like that's a personal, thing that you do, that you would have to do, even if Brad wanted to do it for you, right? That seems like one of those.
I don't understand the ins and outs of that, but it just seems to me like, isn't that something like
someone else doesn't apply? No.
Like, shouldn't you apply for that yourself?
You would have to go do the interviews and all that stuff yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never applied for a work visa in another country, but from what little bit I've seen on 90 Day Fiancé, it's a very personal, thing that you have to go do yourself that no one else can do for you. It's like going into the Social Security Administration, you have to go yourself. No one can go in your stead.
Right. Well, when I read that in my research, I had questions about it.
So, I hate to keep saying, well, you keep kind of like, but it could have been this, or it was reportedly this, almost like you're on Brad's side, if you will, but it really does seem to be evidence that Nancy kind of like makes it what it's not to maybe explain away some of her behaviors or kind of get sympathy from people. As far as like she might be being controlled or Brad's a dick, blah, blah, blah.
Well, like I said, Dylan, a lot of podcasts have made it like Brad's this terrible person.
Like they didn't
She's
even have this conversation.
She's like, like she was just this wonderful person and he's a piece of shit. But that's not the case. I mean, it seems like there were both.
She's participating in this too.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand this quote about Brad hadn't applied for her work visa. And that was controlling her. I mean, she's an adult. Shouldn't she apply for her own work visa? Like I said, I don't know how that goes, but anyway, I was just kind of like, okay. Like, if something doesn't seem fair or just, or there's another explanation in my brain, I just can't let it go. So that's kind of just how I am. And I think you probably know that from listening to the podcast. Well, however, there were witnesses who did see several arguments take place at the children's daycare. Nancy typically dropped the children and picked them up, and it was noticed when Brad joined her. In one incident, a witness saw them arguing in the parking lot, and it kind of stuck out. Well, one, because they're in a parking lot of a children's daycare arguing, but also because Brad typically didn't drop the kids off or pick them up because of his work schedule. So it was kind of like, what's Dad doing here? Brad blocked Nancy from putting the children into her vehicle, and he was saying, quote, "You don't own the kids. I own them too." In a second incident, the couple was again seen arguing in the parking lot while the children were crying in the car. Nancy told Brad, quote, "You keep the house and I'll keep the girls." It just seems like a total lack of compromise. And I think we need to address that, children aren't a pawn and they're not something to be owned.
They're not property.
They're not. And one parent doesn't have more rights to the child than the other parent.
See, in these
I think when a parent is like, I'm taking the kids, they're mine. Well, that's not true. I mean, you just have to have compromise. And even though you might be in a bad relationship and the breakup's not going well, or you've got to, at the end of the day, realize that there's got to be some meeting in the middle with this.
You got to take a step back and do what's best for the kids. And children have some autonomy too.
Well, there's that.
I mean, they are your children. You are, by law, you have to provide and take care of them. But when these people start using them as weapons, or if someone uses a child as an ATM on the child support side, that's fucked up and it shouldn't be done.
But this marriage is in shambles. Brad is working a lot, limiting his wife's spending. She's going out all the time, drinking and talking to ex-boyfriends. Nancy badmouths Brad to all of her friends. As most people, we will vent about our significant others during times of relationship turmoil. That's not anything new.
I'm sorry. To clarify about the child support statement I just said about using children as an ATM. If you're spending the money on anything besides the child or the household that the child lives in, then you're shitty. Okay, that money is for the child. It should be spent on the child. If you're buying beer, weed, shoes, or getting your hair and nails did and all that,
Coach bag,
not so much, right?
Right. So, Nancy's bad-mouthing Brad to all of her friends, which, that's normal. I think a lot of people vent to their friends about their husband, their wife, what's going on in their relationship. I think that's normal, right? But Nancy said that Brad kept a tight leash on her. She said he would follow her to the gas station, fill up her car with his credit card, and not give her cash. And this was Brad's way of controlling how much gas Nancy had in her car, therefore limiting where she was able to go. But, of course, Brad refutes this, saying credit card statements don't lie. He would refill her fuel tank several times during the week, and that it was easier to keep track of gas expenditures using the credit card. That's what the financial advisor had told him to do.
Yeah, there's just so many of these, and is it just her, twisting the situation, or is there some type of controlling element to Brad's, personality?
Well, and it could be that, maybe there's some resentment there. Maybe he is controlling. There's...
Sometimes people even are like to be in control, but not even in a mean way. Does that make sense? Like you, for instance, in our relationship. You like to not be in control of me, but you like to, like you described earlier, have everything, plotted out.
I'm a take charge kind of person.
It's
like my personality.
And yeah.
And I like to plan, and I like to kind of know. That's just, I'm a little type A in that way.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not really about controlling you. It's just about, well, I guess I am a little bit of a control freak, but it's just really...
It's just controlling the environment around you.
Well, it's just because I have such horrible anxiety that I have to do that in order to function.
Right.
It's like a coping mechanism for me.
And so, in all these descriptions of these, and of course we need to move on, all these descriptions of Brad said this, she said this. We don't know that Brad wasn't controlling,
No, we don't.
and we don't know that he wasn't finding, because some of these things that she's described, even though she may try to make it look a little worse when she tells friends or family, are odd to me, right? Because if you know how I am with you, if you had the kids in the car and we were going to use this credit card, and I didn't mind how many times he's saying basically, I don't care how many times I need to fill the car up, I would give you the credit card. I wouldn't follow you to meet you at the gas station.
Well, there again, I think
That's fucking
well,
weird.
I think what it boils down to
But it
is
could
that
be the
there
money
was
thing.
Well, I think it boils down to this lack of trust. Like, he didn't want to give her the credit card because
She might buy a bunch of other shit with it.
there was $27,000 in debt on an American
So,
Express card,
again,
and they're totally
yeah.
maxed out. And Brad also said, like, he wasn't just handing her cash for gas; he was giving her this $1,200 a month allowance, but he was also buying gas with the credit card. So she had money if she needed gas.
So,
right?
well, the out of control spending could explain that stuff away.
But
So,
his
yeah.
perspective was like he wasn't giving her cash because, from his point of view, she had these horrible spending habits. And from her perspective, she should be allowed to access the household income and spend as she saw fit. So there just seems to be a total lack of compromise in this relationship. There's not enough communication, and it's like neither person is really willing to understand the other person's point of view.
Shit.
In some ways, it just seems like they're handling this relationship in a very immature way.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
I'm no marriage counselor, but come on, guys. Now, in my opinion, if you're in a marriage, you sometimes make concessions. Like, if you're swimming in debt, this is how I would handle our relationship, right? Then we need to make changes. Being materialistic is fine when you can afford it, but otherwise, like, calm down.
Right.
I mean, if we're so broke that we are literally like pinching pennies, I'm not going to be mad that you didn't put a certain number of gallons of gas in my car that week.
Because
I'm thinking,
I
well, we probably don't fucking have that money.
And I don't need to be going anywhere or doing any extra stuff. All I should be doing is going to the grocery store, doing what I have to keep the household going, because we got to get this money straightened out.
Well, I think that's what most like responsible, reasonable people would approach the situation as. Like, if you don't have the money, you don't spend it.
It's like my friend would say, you're doing too much.
You're doing too much.
Get somewhere and get still.
After the revelation about the affair between Brad and Heather, Nancy said she'd had a rough year and deserved a diamond necklace. Nancy chose this necklace that was about $7,000, but Brad explained he could only work with about $2,800, and so this was a subject of more arguments. Once she got the diamond necklace, she rarely took it off, which will come into play later. Friends Doug and Pam would later testify that Nancy admitted her plan was to spin Brad into submission, and in the divorce proceedings, she would paint him as a bad guy who was refusing to support her financially. Now, this is coming from her two friends who testified at trial about this.
Damn.
Despite not having access to money, Nancy charged a bear painting for $8,000 on the couple's card in 2008.
See, I mean, come on, dude. That's just a poor decision.
Well, I think it just contradicts this notion that, like, she's pitiful and he's not giving her any money. When she's getting almost a $3,000 diamond necklace because she deserves it, and she's charging an $8,000 painting
Right.
of a bear.
Okay.
I know. What are you, living in a cabin in Maggie Valley? She went on a beach trip to Hilton Head that summer with her family, and Brad gave her $700 in spending money for the trip. Nancy spent it all on the first day, then relied on her parents for the rest of the trip, later telling friends that her husband wouldn't give her any money, and telling her parents, like, Brad didn't give me any money. When Nancy dropped her parents at the airport, she cried and said she wanted to come home. They helped Nancy retain that lawyer that filed the separation agreement, and her parents wanted to possibly try to buy Brad out of the house, or at least get Nancy another place to live. So during the summer of 2008, Nancy also went on a beach trip with a male friend and their kids, as well as a trip to Washington, D.C. So this just seems to contradict a lot of the stories that Brad kept her penniless and was controlling in the marriage.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's going on multiple trips.
Now, I should also mention that while Nancy was on this beach trip with Michael Morwick, who was like a friend and neighbor, they went without their spouses, but they had the kids with them.
Okay.
I mean, it's just like, hey, you're going to the beach with this friend, right? We've got a beach house. Come, bring the girls. I mean, I think that's cool. I'd let you go to the beach with my best friend. It wouldn't bother me. I trust you.
Well, I mean, I think that would be fine. and I could see that happening. It just seems a bit. Of course, I don't know people with beach houses and shit. So, I mean, certainly if we knew someone and they was like, hey, while they're doing this, you bring the kids down. We'll hang out. I could see that happening.
Well, while they were there, he approached Nancy and told her, quote, "I want to fuck your brains out." And she was horrified and, of course, began telling their circle of friends about it. She was just like, what the fuck? It's just kind of, I'm bringing this up because it just goes to show, like, these people, they just.
So under the guise of, hey, just bring the kids down, we'll hang out, this guy's trying to make a move because he's gross.
Well, these people in the story, I mean, it's like Peyton Place.
Yeah.
I swear. I mean, there was a report that another neighbor named Craig Duncan had propositioned Nancy, and she had told her friends about his expressed interest. And it just seems like these people are all like friends and hanging out, and they live in this neighborhood, and they're kind of like upper middle class, but then they're just all like screwing around behind each other's backs. And I mean, this just creates a lot of drama, right?
Right.
And it also kind of maybe creates motive.
Okay.
Which we'll get to later on. So in July, Nancy began doing some interior house painting for her friend Jessica Adams to earn some extra money. It was on July 11th that Nancy was up at 5 a.m., which was pretty normal for her. Nancy was an early riser who usually went running. On that particular morning, she had plans to meet a friend, Candy Clark, and the pair, they had actually been training for a half marathon together. Nancy told her she wasn't really feeling up to it that morning, but that they would run together again soon. Nancy then took Katie and Bella to a friend named Hannah Pritchard to her neighborhood, where they went swimming in a community pool, like in the neighborhood. They stopped by a deli for lunch. Nancy chatted with her friend Hannah about how Brad had forgotten to leave her cash for lunch. The allowance, Hannah knew, was always a point of contention. Nancy calls Brad several times from her cell phone to discuss the money, and at one point Brad offers to bring her some cash, but she tells him, like, no, don't bother. After leaving the deli, Nancy took the girls to the grocery store where they picked up some items for a cookout they would be attending later that evening. Nancy was taking ribs to the event that was hosted by neighbors Craig and Diana Duncan. When Nancy got home, she prepared the ribs and spoke on the phone with her sister Krista. Nancy and the girls had taken that trip to Hilton Head, South Carolina, along with her parents and her sister about a week before. So they were mostly just kind of catching up on how the week had been since Nancy had gotten back home. Nancy showered and dressed, and around 6 p.m. she headed over to the Duncan's cookout. Brad arrived sometime around 6:30 when he got off from work. Nancy chatted with her friends, explaining to several that Brad was on kid duty all weekend, which meant that he would be caring for the kids, and that kind of opened Nancy up to plans. So, like, hey, anybody's got something fun to do, let me know. Brad's on kid duty.
Haha.
I'm a free woman. But Brad did make some plans with a friend for the following morning, which would be that Saturday morning, to play tennis. Since he had kid duty, he checked with Nancy to make sure it was okay. She agreed, like, I'll watch the kids for you to play tennis.
Go play tennis for a couple hours, and I'm going to get on and do my own thing.
Right. Then they made plans to meet up with some other friends the following night. So it would be like Saturday night for like a game night. Like, hey, we're going to get together and play some board games. So with some other adult friends. So it wasn't exactly like Brad's on kid duty. These are going as a couple to play games.
Right.
Right. So around 8 p.m., Brad decided it was time to take the girls home. Nancy wanted to stay longer at the cookout, so she departed with them briefly, then returned to the party. She basically walked them home and, like, helped tuck the girls in. Nancy stayed around until about midnight, drinking wine and some beers, just hanging out before going across the street to her house. On that evening, Brad was sleeping in the girls' room, which was not unusual. Brad and Nancy took turns sleeping with the kids.
Okay.
Around 4 a.m., Katie woke up crying. Now, remember, Katie's about 2 at this time. Brad went to the kitchen to get her some milk, and Nancy joined him in the kitchen because they were both early birds. So around 6 a.m., Brad ran to Harris Teeter grocery store, which was about a mile from their house, for milk. When he returned home, Nancy told him there was no laundry detergent and asked him to go back to the store. And while he was at Harris Teeter buying milk, she'd actually called him from the house phone, landline, asking him if he would bring home some green juice, which was basically like those naked green, the green smoothies.
Right.
Because their daughter, I think Bella, liked that, and they didn't have that either. So she was like, oh, while you're there, will you pick this up? He said, sure. Comes home. Then she's like, hey, we don't have any laundry detergent. So then he goes back out to the store.
Okay.
Well, hey, I've done that before. I've sent you to the store like 2 times in a row for shit.
Oh, well, you know me. I'll forget the one important thing I came for and come back with other stuff.
Yeah. I'll be like, we need dish detergent. And Dylan will come back and be like, look, I got you a box of Nerds.
Like, did you get
"Thanks."
the dish detergent? Ah, I knew I was forgetting some.
No, but I got this great deal on these Post-it notes. It's like so random. It was around 7 a.m. that Nancy said she was going to go for a run. Around 9 a.m., Brad realizes that Nancy isn't home yet and that he would have to cancel his tennis plans. Now, it wasn't uncommon for Nancy to be gone several hours when she was running. Again, she's training for a half marathon, so she's running like, 8, 10, 12, 15 miles at a time. And that's going to take some hours. Brad would later tell authorities that he assumed his wife had stopped off for coffee, which she did sometimes after a run. So he's just kind of like, hanging out, waiting on Nancy to get back. Around 9:30 a.m., Jessica Adams called the house asking for Nancy. Brad explained that she hadn't come back from a run yet, but Jessica told him that she thought they were going to do some painting that day. Because remember, Nancy had been doing some painting for Jessica to earn a little extra money. Brad would later say he thought this was odd since Nancy told him that he could play tennis that morning. He didn't know that Nancy had plans to paint.
Oh, okay. So he was expecting this, but she's telling him that we already had plans.
Right, but he was like, well, I asked her last night if I could play tennis this morning, and she said she didn't have any plans. That was fine. Made this tennis date.
So he's just waiting on her to get back from a run so he can go play tennis.
Right. So if she had plans to paint, she would have told him, like, no, you have to watch the kids. You can't play tennis. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, her friend Hannah Pritchard called after that. She and Nancy had discussed that they might go to the pool again, like they had done the previous day. So by noon, Brad was growing concerned about his wife's whereabouts, so he called Jessica back. Now, this time he asked for Candy Clark's phone number. Since the women had been training together for the half marathon, he thought maybe Candy might know where Nancy was. When he tells Jessica that Nancy isn't home yet, Jessica gets off the phone and immediately calls 911. During the emergency call, Jessica tells the operator she's afraid Brad may have done something to harm Nancy.
Whoa.
Now, there's no history of domestic violence in this relationship, so it does seem like a strange comment.
Well, I was going to say, even with their tensions and the arguments and things like that, there doesn't seem to ever have, up to this point, have been abuse or, physical violence. So that's just... Unless, I guess, if your friend's like, if anything happens to me, it was Brad. I mean, if they do something like that, then that might make your mind race. But that seems like wow, okay, why'd you say that?
Adams claims she and Nancy had made plans on the afternoon of Friday, July 11th to paint her dining room at 8 a.m. in exchange for Adams helping organize the Cooper house. So that's what she's telling the 911 operator. So we had plans.
My friend was supposed to be here.
Her husband's done something to her.
She's late or not available, and no one knows where she's at, and I think Brad did it.
Yes.
Wow.
So by the time an officer responded to the Cooper house, Brad wasn't home. He was out looking for his wife. The officer, Daniel Hayes, said Brad appeared tired when he finally did reach Brad, that he was tired but not upset. Brad answered basic questions in the dining room, and the officer would later say that Brad appeared thoughtful but not really upset, and that he took a moment to answer each question.
Okay.
So that's why the officer was like, well, he appeared thoughtful because he was just not just blurting something out. He kind of would think and then give me the answer of like, okay, well, maybe it's this or, whatever. By 4:30, several friends and neighbors gathered in front of the Cooper home, including Cary Clark. I think I called her Candy earlier. I apologize.
You've called her Candy a couple of times?
I'm sorry.
It's Cary Clark?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where I got Candy from.
I don't know, but I was like, Candy Clark. Oh,
No, I think her name is Cary. Anyway, Clark told officers she had no plans to jog with Nancy that morning. She told the officer that she had tentative plans to run the following morning, Sunday, because Nancy had plans for that Saturday. Now, a search was organized, including with canines. Friends volunteered to help search this area as well. A few created some flyers, and they began hanging them up around Cary. Hundreds of volunteers and law enforcement searched for Nancy by land, air, and water.
Ooh.
It is on July the 14th, 2008, that a man walking his dog around 7:35 p.m. near Holly Springs Road and Fielding Drive, which is less than 3 miles from the Cooper home, makes a gruesome discovery. A woman's body is floating in storm water in a drainage ditch in this very undeveloped neighborhood. It's a cul-de-sac called the Oaks at Meadow Ridge.
Okay,
So it's like a neighborhood under construction.
it's like the road's done, but the lots are empty or under construction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, initially, Cary police say they don't have a suspect, but believe this crime is not random. Now, at first, they don't know exactly that it's Nancy. Dental records will confirm it is Nancy Cooper.
Damn.
Nancy's wearing a sports bra. Her diamond necklace is missing. And I couldn't find a detail about whether it was at home or if it just was missing forever. Her manner of death is strangulation, which is determined by an autopsy that they had the next day. She was choked so hard that the bone in her neck had broken. Dr. John Butts was the medical examiner who concluded her death was a homicide. She did have a faint mark across the central neck area, which was about 1.3 inches. So not very big in length. Her trachea also contained fluid.
So we're thinking ligature?
Possibly, but it was really faint. But I'm going to
Okay.
get to that. So her trachea also contained some fluid and debris, and the medical examiner would later say that mark was likely caused by a ligature of some kind, but it was a very faint mark. 2 days later, Nancy's parents, Gary and Donna Rentz, and her twin sister, Krista Lister, file a petition for emergency custody of the Coopers' 2 daughters. They claim Brad is emotionally unstable, emotionally abusive, and poses a threat to the children. A Wake County family court judge awards them temporary custody. Dylan, the same day that they are awarded this temporary custody of the kids, the Cary Police Department obtains a search warrant for the Coopers' home at 104 Walsburg Court, including a search of the vehicles, and they collect a DNA sample for Brad.
Okay, so they're full on. She's not missing anymore. They have a body, which is horrible that Nancy was left like that or ended up in the storm drain. And they're just going all out, full on search of the house. We want to figure out what happened. And they're obviously always do, and usually right, suspecting possibly
The old adage, the husband did it, right?
that Brad may be involved in his wife's death. And so they're moving. They've got the kids squared away by, the court-ordered custody, and they're coming in.
Cary police question Brad, who is cooperative. He answers questions and allows the search. Police search the couple's BMW sedan and BMW SUV, removing a Louis Vuitton purse from one of the vehicles. Brad's lawyer releases a statement on July 18th saying there's a lot of wild speculation and bizarre unsupported theories about Nancy's death. According to attorney Seth Blum, who represented Brad, he says Brad has been very cooperative with law enforcement and also adds that Brad didn't kill his wife. But a lot of people analyze Brad's body language. They say he doesn't seem upset, he's acting oddly. His attorney explained that Brad was a private man who was not accustomed to the glare of the spotlight and said, quote, Mr. Cooper wishes to mourn privately.
See, and that was the first cop that made contact with Brad when she was reported missing. Said, he was thoughtful, but he didn't seem upset. And that could mean that he was involved in his wife's death. It can also mean that that's just how Brad is.
Well, he has been described as being very quiet.
That's how Brad would perform
reserved.
under if he was told that his parents had been killed in a car wreck, that, he may not be a public display of grief, right? People are just different. So that's always tricky for me in any case when they're like, oh, he wasn't, or she wasn't this and he wasn't that, when people are just very, very different. Some people carry that weight until they just explode and crumble into like a literal heap on the ground before that emotion really processes through them. So that's tricky to judge someone on that. We sound like Brad fans in this story, and we're not. But
no, I mean, you'll at the end, I'll give you my assessment. I mean, we always kind of talk about the case,
right?
And I will give you my assessment, and I'll tell you what I think. But
I got a feeling.
But I'm just trying to bring these points to light. because I think they're important. And as we continue and finish the story up, I think you'll see why. So the district attorney didn't see Brad as a man in mourning. Howard Cummings viewed Brad Cooper as many perpetrators of domestic homicide. I mean, he didn't call the police. He wasn't really checking for updates about the case. He called him muted and dull.
Okay.
A few months into the investigation, Brad attends a deposition related to the custody challenge by Nancy's parents. He answers questions for 7 hours. It's a long-ass time.
That's a long time.
In the video, he is positioned in front of a bookshelf, and during one of the breaks, Dylan, he kind of looks down at his wedding ring and, like, slowly is, like, turning it and staring at it. So a lot of people are like, ooh, you know. The district attorney, or the assistant district attorney Cumming, analyzed this video and said it was very typical. It was a man angry at his wife and taking further opportunity to demean her.
By looking at the wedding ring and...
Well, just in his answers in the
Oh, just
7-hour
the-
deposition.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So one thing I find problematic with this case is how, and I said it before, like any negative mention of Nancy, everyone's like, oh, that's smearing the victim. Yet I do think it's important to tell the truth fully in the case. I mean, a victim can still be guilty of bad behavior. And no, none of this is an excuse for murder.
She doesn't deserve to be murdered.
But Nancy was not 100% innocent when it comes to the dissolution of her marriage and the situation that was happening between, she and her husband. Now, a detail from the deposition would later haunt Brad. He claimed he had no knowledge of the location where Nancy's body had been found. Brad said the only information he had on the body's location was what had been reported on the news. Now, it is October 22nd that a judge grants temporary custody to Nancy's parents and sister. On October 27th, Brad is arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Now, the only piece of forensic evidence linking Brad to the crimes involves a computer. An FBI investigator analyzes Brad's computer. A Google map search of the area was done the day before Nancy went missing, and it was basically like exactly where her body was found, and it's the single piece of evidence connecting Brad to the murder of his wife.
Well, damn. I mean, that you would typically, as an investigator or prosecutor and a juror, want more evidence, right? But that's pretty interesting.
But wait.
Okay. How do you explain that away,
Well,
though?
but wait. There's more. The trial lasted 36 days with testimony from dozens of witnesses. During the trial, an affair between a man named John Pearson and Nancy came to light. On the stand, Pearson testified that the affair happened one time in 2005 after a Halloween party.
Ooh.
He didn't come forward to police with the information because he hadn't wanted to sour Nancy's memory. Pearson's testimony was part of the defense's strategy. Nancy had become pregnant soon after the affair, and at one point, John had even met up with Nancy to ask about the paternity of the baby. But she told him it was Brad's baby that they had been trying to get pregnant. And, like, this baby doesn't belong to you.
Right. We were trying to get pregnant, and me having sexual intercourse with you was obviously not part of that plan of me and Brad getting pregnant, but it's not your baby.
John was also embroiled in that alienation of affection lawsuit.
Damn,
So
dude.
his ex-wife, Kendi Rollins, was suing Heather Metor because John had an affair with Heather. So his former wife is suing Heather.
Wait a second. This is the other side of the alienation?
Yes.
Uh-uh.
So this is that Brad might have been called to testify in this case or in this civil lawsuit. But this man, John, is actually the one that had the affair with Heather that led to this lawsuit.
Damn,
Again,
dude.
it's like fucking pain place up in this place.
Y'all
I'm
keep it
telling
in your
you.
pants, bro.
So that's how it came out that Brad had also slept with Heather.
Damn.
Now, John admitted that he'd met with Nancy for coffee a few weeks before her murder and had kept in touch via phone and text with multiple calls going to Nancy before her murder. So a lot of people who are maybe like pro-Brad folks point out that this is a motive, this affair,
Okay.
this situation, that the potential paternity of this baby could
Right.
have been a motive, that her relationship with Jessica Adams, who immediately goes to Brad's killed her. She and Jessica have had problems. At one point, she suspected that maybe Nancy and her husband were like texting each other.
Oh,
So some people are like, she seemed to know that Nancy was dead like before anybody even knew she was missing.
before anybody was even alarmed,
Right.
she's like, Brad's done
So
something to
people
her.
like who
Wow.
support Brad point out these potential situations. But
That's-
we're going to get into more of that. So according to testimony, Nancy and Brad had not been intimate since fall of 2005 when Katie was conceived.
Damn.
So they hadn't slept together for 3 years, according to this testimony.
See, that's really unhealthy.
Brad's attorneys accused the police of ignoring witnesses and other evidence, locking solely on Brad from the beginning. In the days following the discovery of Nancy's body, other witnesses had come forward. William Boyer was the man who had found Nancy's body. Well, his wife Jan reported to police that she had seen a suspicious van in the area the night before Nancy went missing. It was in the same area, and she'd reported it to law enforcement at that time. Like, she had called and said, hey, there's this strange van in my neighborhood. These guys look suspicious. It's a construction site. I don't know if they're here trying to, like, steal something. But she had reported this.
Okay.
Other witnesses reported seeing Nancy running on the morning of her disappearance. Rosemary Zednick said she was walking her dog around 7:10 a.m. when she saw Cooper running down a bike path on Lockmere Drive, heading toward Kildare Farm Road. Zednick told police 3 different times about seeing and speaking to Nancy, but no one followed up with her. So she's like, I passed her, I said hello, she greeted me. It was on this particular morning.
Right.
Which shows that she did go out for a jog. Another witness in the area mentioned seeing a maroon-colored van with 2 suspicious-looking Hispanic men who they said seemed to slow down when they passed Nancy running.
Okay.
Like they were checking her out. Now,
Well, and they could have just been like, damn, she's hot.
maybe, but
I mean,
the report of the van spotting in that other neighborhood
Right.
was also reported to be like a dark red or maroon-colored van.
okay, so now that's weird.
Now, a scan of Nancy's cell phone revealed that the last call she had received on July 14th was around 12:35 a.m., and it was from Brett Adam, Jessica's husband. So it's the woman who had reported Nancy missing.
Oh, and that's the one, that Brett's her husband? That's the one the other friend came to and was
Yeah.
like, why's Nancy texting
Yeah.
Brett? Oh, shit, man. Dude, there's so much relationship drama in this neighborhood.
So then he used Google Maps to update this website that he and Diana Duncan created, like help find Nancy, and it had a bunch of information about Nancy on it. In his post regarding Nancy, he specifically used the word gully, like she was found in a gully, which the defense attorneys found unusual. And some web sleuths have theorized that possibly Jessica Adam might have been involved in Nancy's murder because, again, she seemed to know Nancy was dead before anyone else. And her husband's using this Google map to update this website.
And it sounds like he's familiar with where her body was found. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe.
By using a turn of
potentially.
phrase like gully and not just saying she was found at such and such, but like describing she was found kind of in this ditch area.
Right. Police theorize that Nancy was killed at home, then dumped. According to Brad's defense attorney, the medical examiner's findings of the debris in Nancy's trachea indicated she'd been face down while gasping for air, which meant that she'd been murdered outside. She had dirt caked on her legs and knees. Also, there had been dirt found under her fingernails. Now, at the crime scene, there were 2 electrical wires found along with a cigarette butt. Fresh tire marks led directly to the body. It was speculated that the electric wire could have made that ligature mark that had been discovered during autopsy.
Yeah, see, this is weird. If she was killed at home, then taken,
Why would she have dirt under
why
her
would she have
nails?
dirt under her nails? Dirt, not just like a, it sounds like you were kind of, squirming around on the ground, kind of dirt on your knees and things, and debris in her trachea. That doesn't add up at all.
Well, it doesn't really fit the police's narrative.
No.
Now, the tire marks had been measured, and they excluded both the Cooper's vehicles. The wheelbase didn't match. Also, they found a footprint near Nancy's head. It was small, and Brad wore like a size 12 or 13 shoe. So way smaller than like what he would have been wearing. The electrical wires and cigarette butt weren't sent in for DNA testing until 3 years later. Like they were
Damn.
collected, but they didn't test them for 3 years. The bra Nancy had been wearing contained no DNA, not even her own. There was no DNA in the nail scrapings. There didn't appear to be a sexual assault, therefore they didn't have any DNA, in that way. The coroner also noted the time of death seemed consistent with when she had gone missing. Now, it was reported that a police officer had faxed a letter to Dr. Butts asking him to say Nancy had died just after midnight. Dr. Butts redacted his original report to say he had no exact time of death due to decomposition.
Yeah, and that time of death window is just typically an educated guess on the medical examiner's part, given all the environmental, indicators and the environment they're found in and all. But it really is just simply a guess.
Well, here is what the autopsy found, Dylan. The autopsy showed that Nancy did have some alcohol in her system. She had reportedly eaten ribs, salad, and cake at that cookout before her death. Now, it usually takes somewhere between maybe like 4 to 6 hours to fully digest a meal. So if she had died just after midnight, the defense argued, she would have had undigested food in her stomach, but her stomach appeared empty. Now, she did have some caffeine in her system, which the defense argued she had had that cup of coffee before she went out for this run.
Like she typically does.
So she hadn't been killed when she got home from the cookout.
Okay, so the defense theory is she's killed that night, and then her body's dumped the next morning.
Well, the police are like, she was killed, Brad dumped her body,
right.
She'd been dead for some hours.
Okay, and the defense is saying that's the possible, or her stomach contents would still have the previous night's meal in it.
Now, here's a side note, Dylan. In 2010, there was a huge scandal in North Carolina. You may remember this. The State Bureau of Investigation did an audit of the state crime lab, and it was shown and proven that analysts were routinely withholding blood tests, often exculpatory evidence for defendants in cases. So of 200 cases reportedly investigated during this time, Nancy Cooper's was one of the mishandled cases.
I
and
do
if you
remember
remember, we talked about this in our, basically the staircase out of Durham, the Michael Peterson murder case.
Right, that same lab was
Exactly.
indicated in that case as well, right?
Exactly. So in that staircase murder, we talked extensively about this audit of the state crime lab. So they were like fucking some shit up.
Which is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
They're handling all the forensic evidence from the, all these cases, and they're making decisions. It's the, outcomes, and to not be
and I believe
purely scientific.
If I recall from that episode, I'd have to go back. It's been a while since we recorded that episode, but from what I recall, there was actually one of the forensic analysts that was caught lying on stand and admitted that he went on stand, and I think he was got into some serious trouble for actually lying on the stand about some of the
pretty sure the blood splatter
forensic analysts.
Was it maybe?
Yeah, I think something like that.
The blood splatter down the staircase. But either way, this is a big deal when these crime labs are found to be even not intentionally, even just being operated poorly, because everyone, including the defendants in these cases, is counting on them to be following scientific theory and scientific method.
The district attorney's office told jurors that Brad had killed Nancy when she returned home from the party. He dressed her in the sports bra, then dumped her on Fielding Drive. They speculated that Brad had somehow automated phone calls from Nancy the morning she went missing, when she'd allegedly called Brad to ask for that green juice that her daughter wanted when he had gone to the store.
So they're saying he's like a computer guy. He can do this.
And then that she had called again for laundry detergent, and that was also automated. They speculated Brad had pulled his car into the garage to load her body, then leave the kids 3 different times to set up his alibi, because they do actually have footage of Brad shopping at Harris Teeter that morning. Since Brad was a VoIP, or was it voice internet provider expert with Cisco.
And the phone systems of Cisco.
Right.
So this, yeah.
They alleged he knew how to automate the calls. At 6:40 a.m., there was a verified call from the landline to Brad's cell phone. However, another expert said there was not a way Brad could have automated the call from the home's VTech cordless phone. That it was not a phone that you could do that with.
Okay, so even if you can make these automatic calls happen, it couldn't be done with this phone.
The jury unanimously found Brad guilty of first-degree murder on May 5th, 2011, and he was sentenced to life without parole. I was going to say without patrol. without parole.
I must say the forensic evidence in this case is very, very, very thin, non-existent.
We're going to get in that in a second. However, in September of 2013, Brad was granted a new trial. The Court of Appeals decision was largely based on technology-related testimony. So like you said, Dylan, they had very minimal evidence. It was mostly circumstantial, hearsay.
Or explaining their theory.
Exactly. Now, a computer expert named Jay Ward argued against the Google Map evidence. It was the only non-circumstantial evidence connecting Brad to the crime. And this man, Jay Ward, had 15 years experience. He specialized in network security, specifically intrusion attempts from the internet. At the time of the first trial, the state had 2 witnesses who were qualified experts in forensic computer analysis. It was their expert opinion that temporary internet files showed Brad Cooper had performed a Google Map search, even zooming in on the exact location of where Nancy's body was found. This evidence had been crucial to the prosecution's case. They concluded the search was done by someone using the laptop while it was at the Cisco office where Brad worked. It was initiated by using a zip code of like the Cooper's residence. However, Jay Ward found irrefutable signs of tampering on Brad's computer. He analyzed, and I'm not a computer person, so there's probably someone out there who's like, she's an idiot and doesn't know what she's talking about. This is my layman brain trying to break it down.
He looked at the magic box.
Yeah. So he analyzed temporary internet files, like the Google Map files, hundreds of times. On July 16th of 2008, 692 files were modified by Cary Police Department. And when they did that, there were like 72 new files created.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. But the internet, when they seized it, was on like an open network.
So possibly it could have picked
been
this
hacked.
off of the network of some file that someone accidentally, basically what I'm getting from this as a layman is someone else could have Google mapped that area because they know the area where the body was found and looking at it. And maybe this file ended up attached to his computer somehow.
Well, listen, the FBI didn't take custody of that computer until July 28th. So there was like a good 2 weeks almost.
I'm no expert, but changing or modifying any of the files on this computer that is evidence, unless you have to analyze it or something, seems like not good to me.
Now, Jay Ward said fact files changed spoliation, and it was no longer reliable evidence. A cookie match should match up to the Google Map search, but there wasn't one. No cookie, and there was no deleted cookie found. It was impossible to fabricate a cookie. So cookies on the computer, when they searched it, dated back to April of 2008, but there really weren't any cookies relating to a Google Map search. Ward said the Google Map files were not obtained through an internet search and had been planted on the laptop. Originally, the state had argued against Ward's testimony on the basis that he wasn't a forensic expert, but Cooper's defense said he was a computer security professional. Now, the Court of Appeals overturned this, stating that the original trial court had abused its discretion in excluding Ward from testifying. So if a jury had heard this,
that's pretty big deal.
It seems like Brad probably would not have been convicted.
Well, it's definitely exculpatory evidence that very possibly could have changed the thoughts of the jury or the course of the trial.
Right.
Okay.
So he's granted a new trial, but instead of going through a second trial, Brad takes a plea deal for second-degree murder, and part of this is an exchange that he has to give up custody of his children.
Okay.
He received a 12 to 15-year sentence in prison, and he was given credit for 5 years served. So the children were given to Nancy's twin sister, Krista, and they now live in Canada with her. In the plea deal, Brad admitted for the first time to killing his wife and dumping her body near their home.
He did it?
He was released from prison and deported back to Canada. Now, sometimes taking a plea deal is the better option. But, Dylan, a lot of people have pointed out this case is not cut and dry. There's no smoking gun, and I still have a lot of questions. Like, was Brad guilty? I don't know. So Occam's razor would have me believe that the simplest answer is that yes, the husband did it, but there's no real evidence.
Now, was that part of the plea that he accepts the second degree and he admits guilt.
I guess so.
So, but see, that's what kind of threw me off guard. Was he finally just like, okay,
Well, he never came out and said, I did it. I murdered her. Here's why. But he accepted the plea deal, which basically says, I killed her.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
But he's never admitted. And
okay.
He's never spoken out, admitted that he did it. He's never given any reason why he did it.
Okay. So, he very, again, devil's advocate. He could be accepting the plea deal because he's already been convicted of first-degree murder and, had a lengthy sentence on top of that, I'm sure. And now he's been there 5 years. And if he can get the second-degree plea, he can be out in 5 to 7 years or less.
Well, and at that point, are you looking at another life in prison sentence? Do you really want to go through a
Do you trust
second
another trial?
Do you have money for another trial
No.
to hire these expert witnesses?
No.
I don't know. Is taking the plea deal a better option in this case?
I think that's why a lot of times in these, sometimes in these cases that people do accept a plea, but people automatically assign guilt when you accept a plea. But what it turns out is he could be guilty.
Well, I mean, the simplest answer is that yes, he did it, right? I mean, it makes sense.
Strangulation's a very personal way to murder someone. It's a very typical way for a man to lose his shit and murder his wife or girlfriend.
But again, there's no real evidence, and there does seem to be a lot of affairs, a lot of secrets, betrayal, and there were other reports of potential suspects that didn't go anywhere. It seems like that once police zeroed in on Brad, like he was just done for, like they just set their sights on Brad, and he was guilty, and everybody said he was guilty. And there was no other explanation.
And what happens is any evidence that doesn't support when you have these blinders on like this as an investigator, any evidence that doesn't support your theory or what you think Brad may have done, you don't pay it any mind, even on a subconscious level. It's not even a conscious decision to, that doesn't even pique your interest.
Now, from the beginning, I've kind of, like I said, played devil's advocate. I've kind of given both sides of the story here.
I feel horrible for her, though.
If I was on a jury, I would probably have a very hard time convicting him based on this information. But do I think he did it? Yeah, probably. Absolutely.
Quite possibly.
I believe probably like 95% that he probably
that
did.
It was him and not her.
I think he killed her.
You have all these other affairs, making him mad, all these things coming out, the financial strain that it seemed like she was a big part of causing, with the spending and stuff. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think likely even after all this time in this whole story, I think Brad did it.
I think he did it. But I do have a little bit of doubt. Like I said, if I was a juror, I'd have a hard time convicting him because there is
that reasonable doubt
in my mind. It's very odd that this woman, Jessica, immediately starts calling Brad out, saying he murdered her. He did something to Nancy. I mean, she was a friend, but it didn't seem like they were super close.
And there was no reports of domestic abuse or any of that.
Well, they'd had a lot of problems just within their friendship. And then all of a sudden she's acting like she was Nancy's best friend and knew everything about Nancy and this relationship.
Just because she was going to help her paint her dining room.
And they had their own set of problems. And then there had been this other affair with this man who felt he might potentially be the father of one of her children.
Right.
I mean, that's a motive, right? His ex-wife maybe... I mean, I'm not saying, this is all speculation, but I'm just saying they have a lot of other doubt, right? These other things make me think like, well, I'm not 100% sure.
Just the multiple affairs. She could have an affair with someone or had a relationship with someone no one even knows about who was a fucking weirdo, crazy person who got obsessed with her. And when she was like, no, I'm still with Brad, fucking stalked her and killed her. I mean, that's just as likely to happen as getting pregnant by some other guy. I mean, really, maybe not statistically, but when you are going outside of your marriage and having these secrets, it really, I mean, that certainly creates a little bit of doubt if I was in the juror box.
Yeah, it's an interesting case. I mean, Brad's obviously served his time. He's out. He's been deported back to Canada. The really sad part in all of this, of course, is Nancy losing her life and then the children losing both their parents.
They lost both their parents, and Nancy was brutalized and murdered and thrown away like trash, and that's horrible.
It is horrible.
And there's certainly
no
nothing.
one deserves to die like that.
And her behaviors weren't insane. We've had way wilder stories of stuff people are doing. So yeah, certainly Nancy was just trying to live her life, and the best way that she maybe thought. But at the end of the day, she was murdered. Shouldn't have been murdered. She didn't deserve that, to be left like that, and it's horrible. So I feel bad for Nancy.
I do too, but I also feel like if, let's say, that 5% chance in my brain that Brad's not guilty, the fact that he had been painted as such a villain for so long, it was very easy for police and everyone in the neighborhood to latch on to these stories of Brad being controlling,
Right,
and being a terrible husband, and just being horrible. And it was really easy to see how that narrative was pushed so far, basically pushed to the edge. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting case. And like I said, I've heard a lot of other podcasters cover it, but it always seems very one-sided. And you know me, if there's other information available, if we can get a whole story, I'm going to try to give the most accurate depiction possible.
yup.
And so I just wanted to bring those things up because some of the actions, some of the behaviors do plant a seed of, well, maybe it wasn't Brad.
Right. And our system is built on the notion of reasonable doubt.
Right.
That's the cornerstone of the entire thing.
Well, that has been this week's case. Dylan, I'm excited. We're going to kick off our brand new Offbeat series this week.
I can't wait.
We're going to be talking about some conspiracy theories. You know we love those. But it's all related to the United States. We have discussions about the occult, Freemasons. We have some ghost stories, just some crazy stuff. You might think that you know U.S. history, but you don't know U.S. history like we're about to tell you.
Oh my God, this is going to be so much fun.
It's going to be really fun. We're going to do a couple different episodes relating to America.
Fuck yeah.
And the founding fathers.
All right, I can't wait to get into that, and we hope everyone enjoys this episode, and we can't wait to be back with our next Offbeat episode.
Yeah, if you want to support the podcast, you can join us at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast for a couple of bucks a month, support the show, and get a lot of bonus content, a lot of material there. Wherever you download the podcast, and give us a 5-star review. That does help. If you listen to the show, you've never written a review for a podcast, just click it, give us a nice review. It helps us, makes us feel good. It helps us keep motivated, keep going. And if you have comments, feedback, you want to get in touch with us, mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. Send an email. We're pretty quick about responding to those.
That's because we have phones.
Okay. Well, Dylan, I hope you have a great week, and I hope our listeners have a great week.
Me too.
We'll be back on Wednesday with the beginning of our Offbeat Conspiracy Theories series. Theories.
Bye.
Bye.